Picture a woman standing in an airport, hijab pinned perfectly, boarding pass in hand, and a stranger walks up and says, "You don't have to wear that here. You're free now." She doesn't flinch. She doesn't argue either. She just smiles because she knows something that stranger doesn't. She knows the cloth was never the point.
I used to think hijab was about hiding, like something was being covered up because it was shameful. That's what the world tells you, right? Cover up because there's something wrong with you. But then I sat with the Quran, actually sat with it, not skimmed it, and I found something that flipped everything I thought I knew. Surah Al-Ahzab, Ayah 59. Allah tells the Prophet, peace be upon him, to instruct his wives, his daughters, and the believing women to draw their outer garments over themselves. And then Allah gives the reason, not so they look modest, not so men don't get distracted. The reason given is that is more suitable, that they will be known and not be abused. Known, recognized, protected, not hidden, seen for who they truly are.
Think about that word known for a second. In a world before name tags, before ID cards, before anyone could just look you up, how did people know who was under someone's protection? How did people know who not to mess with? The hijab was an identity marker. It said, I am not available for your commentary. I am not here to be evaluated. I belong to something bigger than your opinion of me.
That hit me harder than any lecture ever could, because I realized we've been sold a lie for years. We've been told covering is oppression and uncovering is freedom. But ask yourself honestly, who actually experiences more comments about their body walking down a street? Who gets whistled at, who gets stared down, who gets reduced to a shape before anyone even learns her name? The woman in hijab has already answered that question before anyone even opens their mouth. Now, here's where it gets even deeper, and this is the part that actually kept me up one night scrolling through tafsir. Surah An-Nur, Ayah 31. Allah tells believing women to lower their gaze, guard their private parts, and not display their adornment except what is apparent, and to draw their himars, their head coverings, over their chests. Over the chest, not just the hair, the heart area, the place where emotion lives, where love lives, where a woman's most private reactions live. That detail is not random. Allah's not just talking about fabric on a head. He's talking about protecting the parts of a person that are most tender, most easily exploited, most easily manipulated by attention that isn't sincere. You know how people say, wear your heart on your sleeve? Allah is saying the opposite. Don't wear your heart on display for people who haven't earned the right to see it. And I want you to sit with this next part because it destroys the whole hijab is oppression narrative in one sentence. Oppression takes away your choice. Hijab, in its true Islamic form, is a woman choosing who gets access to her. Not a man choosing, not society choosing. Her. She decides who is worthy of seeing her fully, and everyone else gets the version of her that is respected on sight, not consumed on sight. There's a hadith, narrated by Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, recorded in Sunan Abu Dawud, where Asma, the sister of Aisha, came to visit the Prophet, peace be upon him, wearing thin clothing. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, turned away from her and said, O Asma, when a woman reaches the age of puberty, it does not suit her that anything should remain exposed except this and this. And he pointed to his face and hands. Now listen to how he said it. He didn't scold her. He didn't humiliate her in front of people. He turned away first, out of respect, and then he corrected her privately, gently. That is the entire spirit of hijab captured in one moment. Protection delivered with mercy, not punishment delivered with shame. That's the part people miss the most. Hijab was never meant to be forced onto a woman through fear or through a man standing over her demanding she cover up. It was revealed as an honor, something Allah is offering, not something being inflicted. Read the ayah again. That is more suitable. Not that is mandatory under threat. Suitable, fitting, dignified. I think about my own sister sometimes. May Allah protect her. And I think about how the world would look at her if all that mattered was her body. Strangers reducing her to something to comment on, something to rate, something to consume with their eyes and move on from. Now, I think about her walking into a room in her hijab, And everyone in that room is forced, whether they like it or not, to engage with her mind first.
Her words first, her character first. That's not a woman being erased. That's a woman refusing to be reduced. And this connects to something even bigger than clothing. Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim both record the Prophet ﷺ saying that haya, modesty, is a branch of faith, not a cultural preference, not something tribes made up, a branch of iman itself, which means hijab isn't a standalone rule floating by itself in the Quran. It's connected to the entire architecture of what it means to have faith. Modesty in how you speak, modesty in how you look at others, modesty in how you dress. It's all one tree, and hijab is one of its visible branches. Here's something else that wrecked me when I first understood it. In Surah Al-Ahzab, right before the ayah about the outer garment, Allah addresses the wives of the Prophet, peace be upon him, directly, and says they are not like other women.
If they are mindful of Allah. That phrase, if you are mindful of Allah, tells you the entire foundation of hijab isn't about proving something to society. It's about a woman's private relationship with her Lord. She's not covering because the street told her to. She's covering because Allah is watching, and that awareness changes how a person carries themselves in a way no outside pressure ever could.
Think about anyone in your life who does the right thing even when no one's watching. That's the person you trust the most, right? That's the person whose integrity actually means something because it isn't performance. Hijab, worn with sincerity, is exactly that. It's a woman choosing obedience to Allah in a moment where literally no human being could force her to. That's not weakness. That is one of the strongest forms of conviction a person can have. And I think that's why this topic makes some people so uncomfortable, because it flips the entire modern story upside down. We're told liberation means showing more. Hijab says liberation means answering to a higher standard than human validation. We're told value comes from being looked at. Hijab says value was never in the body to begin with. It was always in the soul. And the soul doesn't need an audience to be worth something.
So when that stranger in the airport said, "You don't have to wear that here, you're free now," she wasn't wrong to feel steady in her answer. She already knew freedom isn't the absence of any covering. Freedom is choosing exactly what covers you and why, and being at peace with a decision that answers to Allah before it answers to anyone else standing in that terminal.
That's why the hijab was never just a piece of cloth. It was a woman quietly telling the entire world, you don't get to define me. And Allah, you already do. If tonight's video moved something in you or made you look at hijab in a way you never had before, consider supporting this channel so more of these come your way. You can buy me a coffee through the link in the description.
Every bit helps keep this work going. Or if you want to be part of this journey long-term, join as a channel member and help build something that reminds people in a world full of noise what these truths actually mean. Jazakumullahu khairan for being here.